In the next selection, Seth talks about dogma, reincarnation, and the birth of ideas. Seth encouraged us to understand the reincarnational process, but not as a dry theory or a new improved technique of giving up our power and avoiding the present moment. Let's listen to Seth now as he was discussing some of these concepts one evening in 1974.
The Friday night session that some of you attended had to do with history. And I do not want you to think of a reincarnation in historic terms. I do not want to think of you using reincarnation to reinforce old beliefs and ideas. I do not intend that it become the new dogma. I do not want you to think of reincarnation of self as left hands, other appendages of yourself that you can use for your own advancement, illumination, and amusement. I did, as a teacher, of course, use our friend over here the other night and his experience to make certain points. But I make those points to each of you. I am not here to reinforce your ideas of history or of dogma. I am here to break down your ideas of history and of dogma. I am not here to build up a new system that you cannot grab a hold of and say, oh, Seth is truth, and so we have it all at 458 West Water Street. I am here to say you are truth, and you are history. I am here because you are courageous, because you dare to come out to a place where you will be returned to yourself and to your own authority. I am with a group of individuals who will no longer accept their reality from others, who will instead accept the joy, the creativity, and the challenge of recognizing the fact that you create your lives individually and en masse. I am here because I am with a group of people who will no longer accept excuses for what they do not like in their reality. And a group of people who will be courageous enough to be proud of their achievements. I am here to tell you that you form history. It does not form you. You make ideas. You are the masters of ideas. They shall not enslave you. You shall not throw down your being and your humanity and your intimate life for an idea. Because you are human and alive, because you are consciousness, you form ideas. from you. You do not come from them. Ideas are creative and joyous and alive, but they belong to consciousness. Consciousness gives birth to ideas. You give birth to the ideas that are within you and that you follow. Do not be misled by any system of beliefs. This class, hopefully, will free you to move in whatever way you want, joyfully and with exaltation, within the beliefs of your own consciousness. You all know that the authority is within yourself. Often you are afraid of following, and so you project it outward upon others, and follow them blindly, recognizing the authority but not recognizing it as your own. And of course, not having to take the responsibility for it either. Not having to accept the creativity and the accomplishment of it either. For that you are denied. You make conflicts with yourself. And while you still believe in the reality of such conflict, you may make better ones, and better ones. You may give yourself a better deal until you realize that you do not have to make conflicts to begin with. We will not be dealing then with reincarnation in historic terms. We will not here trade one set of dogma for another. We will not be dealing in terms of karma and how you have chosen a life now because you are a bad girl or a bad boy in a past life, because you made contracts with the demons. All time is now. You are real now. Your reincarnational selves are real now. What you do affects each other. The power of the present is now. Someday you will understand what I tell you again and again. And in each of your private illuminations, greater insight will come upon you than you can now imagine. You cannot think clearly of reincarnation unless you feel for the cells within your body, for there is a direct correlation to other portions of yourself. As you understand it, each day brings forth a new being. And the secret, so-called, of each reincarnational past are alive in each 24-hour period of your lives. It is, my dear friend, so incredibly simple. And when and if I ever manage to slice through the hard work that you think must be done, then the knowledge will fall upon you as a raindrop upon a blade of grass. And no word will be needed. Now I return again to those selves that wait for you in the future and the past, to those selves that are present now in this room, that inhabit the same space in which you now sit. I return you to those voices that are your own. And someday you will hear these words speak from those mouths. And you will know why this voice sounds so familiar.
All of the different aspects of the self that Seth refers to in his writings, including reincarnational selves, probable selves, and counterparts, are parts of the soul or entity. A much more detailed description of these aspects can be found, of course, in the 10 published Seth books authored by Jane Roberts. Our entities, or souls, are eternal. They are never threatened. Our greater selves are multidimensional beings that provide us with the energy that goes to form our bodies and our consciousness. Our entities are not only fully aware of our everyday experience, but also simultaneously aware of all of the other selves which compose our being. And since there are no real divisions to the self, we always have access to the vast knowledge of our greater selves. Let's listen to Seth now as he spoke to us one evening about the relationship between our normal selves and our entities.
Your entities are not distant. Your entities are not super beings holding you at one time like a pebble in their hand. And then all of a sudden, they toss you out to the centuries and say, good luck, friend. You are a living portion of your entity, alive in space and time, connected with your entity. Your breath flows through you constantly, and you take it for granted. Your entity is as much a part of you as your breath. Your entity is your support. You cannot hold your breath in your hand. And you cannot take your entity out of your pocket and say, ha ha, genie! But you know your entity with a portion of yourself that does not necessarily deal with words. When you are creatively at your best, when you are being at your finest, you are in those terms, without words, in greater familiarity with your entity. Your entity is within you. And therefore it is within you that you must look. But not look so much as feel. For the feeling of your entity is unique with each of you. Do not think in terms of a person. Think in terms of a feeling, and that will lead you to an inspirational understanding of what or who your entity is. Or in larger terms, you are more than a who. And therefore, so is your entity. As Reuben is discovering in his aspect, you think in terms of personhood, one person. And so many of you, despite yourself, when you think of the entity, think in terms of a super person, a superman. Rarely do you think of a superwoman. It has to do with your question about entity name and your interpretation. Free yourself of that concept. Think of a being that is free of your ideas of a person, of a psychological reality, free of what you think of as personhood, free therefore of experience in one place and one time, free of one set of characteristics that it calls its own. But do not think so much as feel. Feel around within yourself for emotions that seem larger than your personhood. And that will give you a feeling for your entity.
The soul or entity is a constantly growing being. It is never finished or completed. And through the reincarnational process, the entity achieves growth and understanding. This does not mean that physical reality is the only dimension in which the entity achieves growth, for such is not the case. The particular manner in which each entity uses reincarnation is highly individualistic. The conditions of your birth, including the parents that you wind up with, is never thrust upon you, but is instead chosen according to your own individual goals and your own unique style. In this next selection, Seth speaks about these issues. His comments were prompted by a student's question about different types of reincarnational lives.
You use the idea of reincarnation individually. Some of you prefer
great variety. Some of you prefer the type of life where you follow through with your associates. As a smaller boy in kindergarten follows through very nicely with all of his friends until he finishes high school and then follows them through college. Some of you prefer to have a series of female lives and then a series of male lives. Some of you prefer to stagger the course. Some of you prefer to develop in your terms in progressive stages that you can understand and appreciate. Others choose entirely different methods of being perhaps an idiot completely in one life, with the intellect unused so that the emotions may be given free sway, and in another life perhaps being a genius, where the intellect is all fine and pure. You choose the way that it is your own way, and that way is comfortable for you. And your entity is one. Your entity is one that likes to play around with variety. Some, you see, follow through with national groupings. Some entities prefer to experience existence in each race. Others do not. There are no rules that say you must accept reincarnation in certain terms. You make your own way. Now remember what I have said to you to begin with, that all lives are simultaneous. You are having all these experiences at one time in your term. Now, my friend Hubert tells me that it is time for class to end. So I have only one word for you all. And you have heard of me say this often. Let the vitality of your own being rise up and astound you. Be surprised and not frightened by yourself. Realize that the energy that sweeps through this frail frame sweeps through your own, that you have energy that you are not using, that your own vitality is as real and as living and alive. And do not let an old thing like me, dead and reborn more times than I care to tell, put your vitality to shame. Therefore, listen to the joy of the atoms and the molecules within yourselves, to the vitality and the joy that is your own reality, to the creation that takes place within you now, to the creation that is unending and is your own. Make friends with it. And I bid you all a fine good evening. Those blessings that I have to give, I give you, and those that I do not have to give, you are seeking on your own.
Thanks, Seth.
Thanks, Seth.
I hope you have enjoyed listening to Volume 1 of the Seth Audio Collection. Please support us in the ongoing publication of additional Seth audio tapes by telling your friends about us, and by not allowing anyone to duplicate your copy of the tapes. If you are not already on our mailing list and would like to be, just send your name and address with your request to the Seth Audio Collection. Attention Rick Stack, Post Office Box 1506, Gracie Station, New York, New York, 10028.